They told you that you were born alone, that you came into this world as a single note, searching for a melody that would make you whole. But what if you were never the note? You were always the song. What if the ache you call loneliness isn't a wound, but an echo of something ancient within you trying to remember itself? Since the moment you opened your eyes, the world has whispered the same story. You and I are separate, me and them, here and there. A tale so deep, it rewrote the rhythm of your heartbeat and the way your thoughts touch the air. But listen, beneath that story, something quieter has always been breathing, a truth that hums like light underwater. Imagine this: two children born beneath the same moon, their first breaths drawn in the same moment, but carried by different winds. One grows where the streets glow neon and rain tastes like steel. The other grows by the ocean, where silence is sacred and time dissolves into salt. They never meet, yet sometimes one dreams of drowning while the other wakes up gasping. They think it's coincidence, but the soul knows better. This isn't magic, it's memory, a remembrance of the web that connects every trembling particle, every thought, every life. Scientists call it entanglement. Mystics call it unity. But names don't matter when you finally feel it. That invisible current weaving through everything you touch. Two atoms once connected remain one heartbeat, even if scattered across galaxies. Distance is just a word the mind invented to explain what it cannot hold. And maybe that's what's been happening to you. You've been walking through life believing you are a traveler, when in truth, you are the path itself. You've been told love must be earned, peace must be sought, and power must be proven. But the universe was never asking you to chase. It's been waiting for you to remember, because the field doesn't respond to your wanting, it mirrors your being. And as long as you see yourself as separate, you'll keep creating reflections of distance, mirrors of scarcity, loops of longing. But when you shift your gaze, when you stop trying to fix the reflection and start healing the one who's watching, everything softens. The glass becomes water, the wall becomes a window, and suddenly you realize you were never outside looking in. You were always the light behind the glass. This is the point where understanding ends and transformation begins. Because once you remember the truth of entanglement, you don't just change your life, you dissolve into it. You merge with the version of yourself that already carries peace in its pulse. You've been taught that time is a straight road, cause before effect, past behind future ahead. But in the quantum field, time bends like silk. Moments touch across eternity. Everything is happening now. That's why sometimes you think of someone, and they appear. You feel unease before the storm comes. You shift inside, and the world rearranges to meet you. Not coincidence, coherence. Your vibration is the language creation listens to. When it trembles with fear, you meet fear in the world. When it sings with wholeness, the world answers in harmony. You are entangled not only with people you love, but with every version of you that has ever existed. Every possibility that hums in the unseen. Each one waits, like radio stations, in the static, for your awareness to tune in. And yet, most of us live through the same loop, the same fears dressed in new days, the same lessons wearing different faces. Not because the universe is cruel, but because we keep observing life through the lens of, I am not enough. But here's the quiet miracle. You don't need to fix the lens. You only need to remember you are not the lens at all. Every soul you've touched, every tear you've shed, every moment you thought you were broken, they all live within the same shimmering breath of now. The universe is not watching you from afar. It's breathing with you. And when you stop reaching, stop proving, stop trying to pull life closer, you'll feel it. That shift, the falling away of effort, the merging into presence. That's the quantum leap. Not a step forward, but a return inward. Entanglement isn't science, it's intimacy. It's the quiet knowing that when your heart softens, stars tremble in response. When you forgive yourself, the air becomes lighter. When you remember you were never alone, the whole universe exhales. So take a breath. The story of separation ends here. You were never missing from your own life. You were only dreaming of distance. Now you're waking up. The illusion begins to crumble the moment you start to feel the field breathing with you. You were never simply born into a body. You were born into a rhythm, a vibration already singing before you arrived. It held your name in its echo, your lineage in its tone, and your emotions as the pulse beneath it. Before your first cry, before your mind learned to name things, you were already connected, woven into a fabric of consciousness that carried memories older than your own. You were entangled not just with your parents, not just with blood or genes, but with whole patterns of thought, waves of emotion, and timelines of possibility stretching beyond sight. Long before language, you were already speaking the ancient dialect of energy. Science once tried to deny this song. In 1935, three minds, Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen, asked the question that bent the spine of certainty. If two particles can mirror each other across the universe, can distance still exist at all? Einstein resisted. He called it spooky action at a distance, but decades later, with aspects experiments in the 80s, the spooky turned sacred. Two particles once touched, forever linked beyond measure. Change one, and the other shifts without delay, without signal, as if space itself had exhaled. But here's what most forget. You are made of the same trembling light. Your every thought, your every heartbeat, your every moment of love or pain creates new threads in that web. When a mother holds her newborn, their bodies synchronize like rivers meeting, heartbeats aligning, breath weaving, nervous systems singing in quiet harmony. That isn't sentiment, it's quantum intimacy made flesh. And when love breaks, when someone leaves, when you still feel their shadow years later, that's not memory, that's connection still humming. You are still in conversation across invisible space. Because entanglement never asked for permission, it simply is. You are entangled with the friend who vanished, with the lover who never said goodbye, with the child you once were, and the self you're still becoming. You can feel them sometimes, not as nostalgia, but as vibrations whispering through your field. And yes, that means you can tune to the frequency of the self who already lives in abundance, already breathes peace, already forgave what you still hold. You can collapse into that version not by thinking, but by remembering, not by effort, but by coherence, not through intellect, but through embodiment, because energy speaks one language: resonance. When you remember who you are, the universe adjusts its tone to match. Physicist John Wheeler once wondered if particles decide who they are only when we look at them, as if our observation travels backward through time, rewriting the past to match the gaze of the present, and the results whispered something astonishing. Reality waits for you to see it before becoming real. What you choose to perceive doesn't just change your future, it reshapes your past. So what happens when you observe yourself differently? When you stop staring through the lens of pain and begin to see through the eyes of wholeness? The field rearranges, old patterns fade, the same faces begin to move with new meaning. Maybe that's why you keep meeting the same lessons in different bodies. Emotionally distant lovers, closed doors, echoes of scarcity. It's not punishment, it's entanglement. You've been resonating with a frequency that says, I am unseen. And so reality lovingly mirrors that back, waiting for you to change the vibration. It's not your fault, it's your field. And fields can be rewritten. The shift doesn't happen by thinking different thoughts. It happens when your entire state changes temperature. When your being, not your mind, starts humming a new tone. Imagine your consciousness as a tuning fork. When it vibrates with guilt, it awakens memories and faces that match guilt. When it hums with worthiness, the world responds with grace. The field never judges, it only echoes. That's why, after heartbreak, a breakdown, a breathwork session that cracks something open, people sometimes say, my life changed overnight. It didn't. Their frequency did. They stopped observing the old movie, and a new one began to play. Healing doesn't arrive through logic. It arrives through resonance. You can study the mechanics of freedom for years, but nothing moves until your vibration softens enough to receive it. One deep moment of coherence, a tear, a surrender, a breath that finally lands, and suddenly you're no longer tuned to pain. The pattern dissolves. And here's the quiet revelation most never reach. You don't need to wait for collapse or awakening to shift timelines. You can do it now, by becoming the observer who remembers, by stepping out of the storm and realizing you were the sky all along. You don't attract a new field, you become it. You don't pretend to be whole, you remember that you are. Identity is not just psychological, it's quantum. Every story you've told about yourself is not a memory, it's a frequency. And as long as that frequency hums beneath your thoughts, it keeps calling familiar echoes into your life. But what if you could change the song? What if you could reprogram the entanglements that keep replaying pain and tune instead into the harmonies of your highest timeline? Before we get to the how, pause for a question that might quietly change everything. Who or what are you still entangled with? Because even now, something unseen is tugging at your field. It could be a moment you forgot, a face you never truly released, a belief you still orbit without noticing. Somewhere in your past, reality split. Maybe it was subtle, a message that never came, a path you didn't take, a love that slipped away without explanation. You thought it was coincidence or timing. But what if, in that instant, you unknowingly collapsed one timeline and stepped into another? This isn't philosophy, it's physics. In the double-slit experiment, scientists fired single particles through two narrow openings. When unobserved, the particles danced like waves, passing through both slits at once, existing in a cloud of infinite potential. But the moment an observer watched, the wave collapsed. The particle chose one slit, one path, one outcome. The act of observation didn't record reality, it created it. Your awareness works the same way. You're not standing outside life, watching it unfold. You're participating, shaping it with every perception, collapsing possibilities with every judgment, bending the probabilities with every breath. Let's make it personal. You wake up one morning and feel a surge of anxiety. Most people react immediately. What's wrong with me? Why is this happening again? That reaction, the interpretation, is the measuring device. It collapses your reality into the version of you who is anxious, broken, unsafe. And the field, loyal and neutral, keeps echoing that vibration back. You begin to see more reasons to fear, more reflections of unrest. But if, instead, you observe it differently, not as something wrong, but as energy surfacing to be released, you shift timelines. You move from resistance to resonance. You become the calm witness instead of the trembling subject. And the energy dissolves because it's finally seen. That is the subtle, silent power of the observer. The field doesn't respond to what you think. It responds to the state from which you observe. When you see yourself as unworthy, reality bends to prove you right. When you see yourself as enough, it rearranges to mirror that truth. Not because you forced it, but because your observation tuned you to a different frequency of self. You've been collapsing reality since the day you arrived here. You just didn't know you were the one holding the camera. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman, let's call her Maya. For years, she found herself trapped in the same heartbreak. Different faces, same ending. Distance, betrayal, the slow fate of absence. She tried everything, therapy, affirmations, rituals, but the pattern clung like smoke. Then during a meditation one quiet afternoon, a memory surfaced. She saw her younger self sitting in a sterile hospital room, small, waiting for her mother to return. For the first time, she didn't resist the ache. She didn't label it abandonment. She simply observed, watched it breathe, watched it soften. And in that moment, something subtle shifted, as if reality itself sighed in relief. The memory changed temperature. The vibration rewrote itself. That same week, the man who'd been distant for months reached out, ready to talk about commitment. It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was alignment. Maya had stopped observing herself as the one who is left and started seeing herself as the one who stays, present, whole, entangled with love instead of loss. This is the power no one taught you to use. You've been weaving timelines all along. Right now around you, there are infinite versions of your life. One where you are thriving, one where you are lonely, one where you are free. They all exist as shimmering possibilities, waiting for your emotional signature to choose. Thoughts alone don't select them. Emotion does. Your feelings are the steering wheel of quantum reality. So ask yourself, what are you emotionally rehearsing today? Are you looping the vibration of fear or practicing the frequency of peace? Because every time you return to the same story of pain, you collapse the same outcome again. And every time you hold coherence, the quiet harmony between your heart, mind, and body, you open the door to new probabilities. That's when life begins to feel different. You stop reacting, you start selecting, you stop chasing timelines, and you begin to choose them. You're not here to fix reality, you're here to tune it. Neville Goddard once whispered, "To be conscious of being poor while praying for wealth is to be rewarded with poverty." He wasn't speaking about money, he was speaking about frequency. Because the field doesn't respond to what you ask for, it responds to who you are when you ask. And who you are is written by what you accept as truth. That's why most affirmations dissolve into air. You can repeat "I am abundant" 1,000 times, but if your inner gaze still says "I lack," the universe simply mirrors the vibration you actually hold. Words decorate the surface, but energy writes the script. So here's the real shift. When you become the observer with awareness, when you watch your own mind the way light watches water, you stop being the effect of reality and begin to move as its cause. This isn't control, it's coherence, and coherence rewrites the code. Because observing a new future is only the first step. To live it, you must untie yourself from the frequencies that keep you anchored in the past. Beneath everything you see, the job, the relationships, the emotions, there's an invisible architecture humming beneath the surface, a network of unspoken agreements, energetic signatures, contracts you never signed but still obey. They aren't beliefs, they are entanglements, threads woven through memory and emotion, binding you to versions of yourself you've already outgrown. Until you learn to dissolve these threads, you'll keep collapsing the same story, even as you pray for another. Not because you're broken, but because the field is consistent. It mirrors coherence, not desire. Every entanglement has a frequency, a weight that tells the quantum field, "This is who I am." And the field, gentle, neutral, exact, responds with what harmonizes to that tone. That's why certain emotions feel like gravity. You rise for a moment, then fall back into orbit. You call it sabotage, you call it karma, but often it's resonance. You're still tuned to an old signature, a vibration that was never truly yours. Let me show you. There was a man who seemed to have everything: success, health, love, respect. Yet every few months the pattern repeated: a sudden loss, a deal gone wrong, a collapse that made no sense. Under hypnosis, he returned to a memory, 10 years old, standing outside his father's locked door, hearing the words, "You don't belong here." That single phrase wove itself into his field. It became a silent law, a vibrational contract that said, "Every time I rise, I'll be pushed out again." So each time he grew beyond that identity, the contract reactivated. Not as punishment, but as pattern. Not because he was unworthy, but because he was still entangled. And so are you. You might be carrying contracts with silence, with rejection, with struggle, with proving, with waiting for permission to receive. They live not in your thoughts, but in the soft tissue of your emotional body, the bridge where memory and vibration meet. And the only way to break them is not through force, but through frequency. Let's go deeper. The HeartMath Institute discovered that your heart emits a field 60 times stronger than your brain. When you breathe into elevated emotion, gratitude, love, stillness, your heart begins to glow in rhythm. It whispers to the body, "You are safe." And in that coherence, the quantum field becomes luminous, responsive, alive. But coherence is not about feeling good. It's about restoring truth to the field. Because when you're tied to contracts of fear or lack, your signals fragment. Your mind says, "I am free," but your heart whispers, "I am afraid." And the field listens to the louder voice. Emotion always speaks first. So healing isn't about convincing the universe. It's about synchronizing your signals until your whole being becomes one clear tone. A tone the field can finally recognize. That's why manifesting from misalignment feels like walking upstream. You can move, but the river keeps pushing back. Because when you try to create from a fractured frequency, you're not painting a new world. You're covering cracks that still bleed. To shift timelines, you must trace the current to its source, to the quiet contract still echoing beneath your awareness. And that journey begins with radical honesty. Ask yourself gently, when silence finds me, what emotion takes the throne? When no one is watching, what sound hums beneath my thoughts? Is it peace or pressure, stillness or survival? That background tone, that's your field's signature. And the field, ever faithful, doesn't judge. It simply mirrors. The universe isn't punishing you. It's harmonizing with your coherence, returning to you the music you play most often. Here's the truth that most overlook. You can't cut cords with energy you still condemn. Forgiveness is not a favor. It's a frequency shift. Until you forgive, the contract of self-judgment remains active, binding you to versions of yourself who still ache to be understood. Unforgiveness keeps you orbiting an old vibration. The vibration of what you didn't know, what you allowed, what you once thought was love. And until that frequency is released, the field will keep replaying your punishment as a mirror of loyalty. Forgiveness isn't bypassing. It's returning home. It's dissolving the emotional gravity that keeps you tethered to yesterday. When you forgive, you don't set them free. You release yourself from the loop. You restore coherence to the field. And in that coherence, a new reality quietly unfolds. Not a better version of the old story, but an entirely different song. One that was always there, waiting for you to stop rehearsing your pain. So how do you begin? Start where the pattern hums the loudest. Name the emotion that repeats itself in your life. Abandonment, rejection, invisibility, resistance. Then trace it back, not through stories, but sensations. When did your body first learn that note? When did your nervous system decide this was safety? Sit with it. Breathe into it. You are not reliving it, you are witnessing it. Because you are no longer the child. You are no longer the character in the memory. You are the consciousness behind the screen, the observer rewriting the script. Then whisper this into your field. I release the contract that says I must keep feeling this to stay safe. You don't need to feel healed to begin. You only need to be coherent. When your heart and mind speak in unison, reality bends to listen, and slowly you'll see the proof. People will respond differently. Triggers will soften. The tension you thought was, you will begin to dissolve. That's not coincidence. That's coherence in motion. The quantum field rearranging itself around your new tone. Because transformation is never about adding more. It's about releasing what was never truly yours. Some of you are still entangled with futures that never arrived. Dreams that expired quietly in your imagination. Versions of yourself you keep mourning. Let them go. Not because they weren't beautiful, but because your attachment to them anchors you in a timeline that's already closed. Every what if you feed with emotion becomes a ghost that drains your coherence. So reclaim your energy, not through effort, but through frequency. Right now, speak it into the field. I free myself. Let the declaration ripple, not for performance, but for remembrance. So the collective field can feel the shift of 1,000 hearts releasing together. Because as we move forward, we are stepping beyond repetition. We are accessing the versions of ourselves that already live beyond the loop. There is a you who already breathes in freedom, who wakes without weight, who remembers joy as the baseline. This version is not waiting in the future. It already exists, vibrating one breath beyond your current perception. She is already healed. He is already whole. They are already home. You haven't met them yet because you haven't tuned into their frequency. But the moment you do, the moment you understand that quantum jumping is not becoming someone new, but remembering the self that was never lost, you stop chasing change and start embodying truth. Quantum shifting isn't imagination, it's recognition. It's the merging of coherence and identity until the version of you aligned with peace becomes inevitable. You're not attracting that version, you're selecting it. You're tuning your instrument until the static dissolves and the music of your higher self plays clear. But before we continue, we must unlearn one illusion: the idea that change requires time. Because awakening isn't linear, it's quantum. We were taught that change follows cause and effect, that time must pass before transformation can bloom. But in the quantum field, time is not the gardener. Identity is. You don't need time to become new. You need to remember who you already are in vibration. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Alina. Doctors had labeled her body with an incurable name, an autoimmune condition that shadowed her every day. She tried everything: diets, treatments, affirmations, even light and sound therapies. Each gave brief relief, then vanished as if her body had forgotten how to trust itself. Until one night in deep meditation, she stopped fighting. No prayers, no affirmations, no trying. Just one quiet question: what if I already am the version of me who doesn't need to heal? She didn't picture it, she became it. Her breath slowed, her body softened, and for a few seconds, just long enough, she felt what it was like to exist without fear, without effort, without waiting. The next morning, something shifted. The pain quieted. Within days, inflammation faded. Within weeks, her body recalibrated to ease. No new medicine, no miracle pill. She had simply changed her identity, and the field, loyal as always, rearranged itself around that truth. This isn't magic, it's biology meeting quantum law. When you fire new neural patterns in coherence with emotion, your body receives the memo. I am different now. And the field, ever faithful to coherence, echoes back. Yes, you are. Here's what most don't see. Quantum shifting isn't about fantasy. It's about fidelity, remaining loyal to the vibration of your chosen self, even when your senses tell another story. Because at first it won't feel real. The old reality will tempt you with its gravity. Your nervous system, addicted to familiar chemistry, will beg to return to the loop. It's not sabotage. It's the body asking, are you sure we're safe outside the old frequency? Your work isn't to fight that pull, it's to stabilize your signal. Let's get precise. You are not solid matter. You are a living broadcast, a symphony of electromagnetic pulses, each thought, emotion, and intention translating into frequencies the field can understand. When your brain and heart speak different languages, when thought says I trust but feeling says I fear, your signal fractures. Reality receives static. But when the mind and heart harmonize, when intention and emotion merge, you become magnetic. You stop chasing timelines. They fold themselves toward you. So how do you tune yourself to that coherence? Begin with what I call identity rehearsal. It's not pretending, it's entrainment. Close your eyes, breathe into your heart, ask softly, if I already were the version of me who lives this reality, how would I move? How would I breathe? What would my inner voice sound like when no one else could hear? Then live that answer, not once, not as a ritual, but as a rhythm, because repetition stabilizes the frequency until it becomes your new baseline. This is not performance, this is becoming the evidence, but know this, the old identity will not vanish quietly. It will return disguised as hesitation, fatigue, self-doubt. That isn't regression, that's resistance leaving the system. Friction means the old timeline is losing its grip. Hold steady. The moment you keep your frequency intact through discomfort, a collapse occurs. You slip into a parallel timeline where that discomfort no longer has meaning. You didn't defeat it, you out-vibrated it. And sometimes the shift is subtle. A phone call that redirects your path, an opportunity disguised as rejection, a sudden clarity that rearranges everything without fanfare. That's how quantum change arrives, not as lightning, as quiet reorganization. And then one morning you'll look around and realize the world didn't move forward. You did. Instantly, you did. And here lies the secret that changes everything. You're not leaping into something better. You're returning to something truer. Every quantum possibility already exists. Every healed, whole, radiant version of you is not a dream or a fantasy. It's a living frequency, waiting for your resonance. When you stop trying to fix what's broken and begin to remember what's eternal, the field no longer resists you, it reflects you. Because the universe doesn't respond to effort, it responds to coherence. Each morning before your mind loops the past, pause, close your eyes, breathe into your heart. Let your awareness soften until you can feel the quiet hum beneath thought, the pulse of the field that remembers you before you remembered yourself. And from that space, whisper silently, I remember who I am in the field. Not the self that's becoming, not the self that's trying, the one that already is. Then walk as them, speak as them. Move through your day not as someone reaching for alignment, but as alignment in motion. The field doesn't need you to prove anything. It simply waits for you to choose your frequency. Because quantum transformation is not a one-time event. It's a rhythm, a new coherence. And the moment your nervous system realizes that the new identity is safe, the old one dissolves quietly, effortlessly, like mist in sunlight. This is where the journey deepens. You begin to see that you were never just collapsing realities. You were creating them. The prayers, the affirmations, the seeking, all of it was the field rehearsing its own awakening through you. You were never manifesting from outside the system. You were the system, the frequency, the field. You are not a mind trying to control reality. You are reality remembering itself as consciousness, the observer and the observed, the current and the current's source. For so long, you believed in cause and effect, that effort creates worth, that healing creates wholeness, that time creates change. But in the quantum truth, form follows frequency, and frequency follows identity. And identity isn't fixed. It's chosen, moment by moment, by the vibration you embody. You are not separate from what you see. Every emotion, every encounter, every coincidence is your own field in conversation with itself. Life isn't happening to you. It's being rendered through you, pixel by pixel, breath by breath. And this is the freedom most seekers never find, because they keep trying to fix the mirror instead of changing the image behind the glass. When you finally grasp that you are the field, living, breathing, transmitting coherence, everything becomes sacred. Every breath becomes a bridge, every word a signal, every choice a code that reprograms the geometry of reality itself. You stop chasing love, health, abundance, or purpose. You begin to walk as the frequency of them. And the field, loyal, intelligent, responsive, reorganizes itself around your state of being. Not instantly, but inevitably. This isn't about perfection, it's about participation. Quantum alignment doesn't require you to be flawless. It asks only that you show up, coherent and present, even for a few moments each day. Because when you enter coherence, even briefly, you tilt the fabric of reality. The quantum field listens, the universe recalibrates, and suddenly, without fanfare, the right people appear, the weight lifts, the air changes. Not because you forced it, but because you matched it. This is the power the mystics live by. Not through domination, but through devotion. Their frequency was so stable that entire realities bent to meet it. Not because they demanded it, but because they embodied it. That's what you are remembering now. To stop trying to attract and start transmitting. To stop striving to become and start allowing yourself to be. Because the field doesn't respond to desperation, it responds to clarity. And clarity is what you already are when you stop hiding beneath effort. When you become a clear signal, unclouded by guilt, doubt, or the noise of not enough, reality mirrors something extraordinary. Your original essence, the self untouched by fear, the consciousness that never fractured. You are not becoming powerful. You are remembering that you always were. You are not finding the light. You are realizing you were the light searching for itself. This moment, this awareness, this coherence is not the end of your journey. It's the doorway back to the beginning. Because once you know that you're not just collapsing reality, but generating it, the question changes. You stop asking, when will it happen? And begin asking, how will I live? Not reactively, not theoretically, but consciously, intentionally, as the field itself, expressing through form. Walk with coherence, not chaos. With signal, not static. With embodiment, not escape. And as you do, watch the world bend quietly around you, not as proof of power, but as evidence of truth. You are the living field. You are the pulse behind the pattern, and reality is simply your reflection, waiting for your next vibration.